Yeah.
Hello everybody, nice to be here today. I want to tell you a little success story which we had in the last couple of weeks, where we created a connector for SAP S/4HANA and Adobe Commerce in just 3 days while using modern technology which Adobe gave us. And I want to show you today how we did it actually. So our big challenge was that we had two complex, big platforms who are highly individually, each doing their own business operations independently. And of course, everybody knows Adobe Commerce, how it works and so on. And SAP itself is a very big ERP landscape actually, mostly operating in finance, automotive, manufacturing, healthcare and so on. And the big challenge was actually that both systems had to communicate to each other, right? So they need to exchange product data, crucial sales order data, customer profiles, and it has to be really scalable and fast. And everybody who has done similar efforts in the past knows what kind of problems actually arise from this. So our pain points, or in general pain points while integrating those systems are definitely that you always struggle with slow data exports, processes are intransparent or even faulty and nobody knows what's going on, so you have to pick developers who manually debug those processes, and in general it's not really stable, right? So because data transformation in general is actually difficult. And this leads to a really big couple of business problems, because if you have inconsistent data in some system, you certainly will use loss of revenue because customers are frustrated and so on. You will certainly do poor decision making because you cannot rely on the data. And of course, if you have so much developers debugging bugs and so on, this is certainly a budget problem in the end, right? And all in all, this is not really, it harms the business actually. So this is compared to what the potential market potential is, because SAP is currently in that migration phase from the old R3 backend, and they migrate everything to S/4HANA into the cloud. And there's not much time left, because until the end of 27, that's almost 2.5 years from now on, they have to be migrated actually. And such a migration process takes time. It takes 2, 3, 4 years, right? So this complexity added to this short of time is not much room that you can spend a lot of time to integrate other systems, for example, Adobe Commerce, right? So you have to be fast and it has to be stable. So here I want to tell you actually how we did it. Adobe Barcelona invited us to the office. There are a couple of guys over there maybe. Daniel, is Daniel here? Is Daniel here as well? No, but he's the guy who introduced us to Commerce Integration Starter Kit. And this is a very powerful tool. So our connector is built on this Integration Starter Kit, which is running on the Adobe Developer App Builder. And with this whole setting, you have an API first approach, meaning we only take APIs from the systems, official APIs. We are running in a serverless architecture, so we don't even have to care about deployment, infrastructure, and so on. So we can directly focus on our implementation, which they call the last mile implementation. And of course, this whole process has a real-time data synchronization, because we can directly send events to each other and process them. So in general, the benefits of using Commerce Integration Starter Kit gives you the ability to onboard third-party systems much faster than in a traditional way. You are using a serverless architecture, so you don't even have to care about it. You can directly start with the CLI tools to implement your 50 lines of code and deploy it into the cloud, right? So it's running immediately. You can kick off a project in 1 minute actually, and you can extend the systems via API from the outside. This all in all gives you accelerated development because you're much faster, only focusing on implementation. And of course, we are running in a cloud native environment, so scalability is not a problem at all. So here's our approach, how we did it. As I said, this is a 3-day sprint. So on day 1, we discussed several business requirements and we made sure that we have a common understanding of it. And once we've done this, we chose the special APIs from both systems, SAP and Adobe Commerce, because we are using them to fulfill the requirements. And once we have chosen the APIs, the task was to actually map the data, because an SKU in Adobe Commerce is a material number in SAP, so we have to map those data so they can communicate actually. On day 2, we started development directly. We set up SAP so it can send out events, and it's actually quite easy. It's just a few clicks and you can then receive events from SAP. The same for Adobe Commerce. The integration starter kit brings onboarding scripts, and with these onboarding scripts, everything gets set up automatically and you can directly consume events and data from Adobe Commerce. So what our main task was there is data validation, transformation and transportation. So this is the main task you have to focus on. And on day 3, we finalized our product and customer data sync. We started end-to-end testing. So we did go into Adobe Commerce, we did our first orders, created customers. The same on SAP side, we created customers there, and then we tested how they synchronize, and it was really fast and also stable. In the end, we also did a couple of fine-tuning of performance metrics. So let's have a little more detailed view on the architecture, how it works actually. We see our 3 systems, and in the middle, our connector here. And the whole magic actually, and in my opinion, this is a real no-brainer, relies on the eventing functionality as well as the webhook functionality, meaning that you can consume any data out of Adobe Commerce. So everyone who has not tried it before, I highly recommend that you try this because it's really flexible. You do not have to program any PHP line at all. It's highly configurable, and you can get any data you want. So we exchange those data almost real time actually, and then on top of that there are webhooks where, for example, a headless front end can actually request data to their webhook, like for example in a B2B case, order history, customer individual prices and so on, and they need to be there on point, so in real time, and this is achievable with webhooks actually. So we request the data out of SAP and deliver it to the front end. This whole connector is actually publicly available. We uploaded it to the Adobe Exchange as well to the Commerce Marketplace. So everyone who wants to try it out, feel free to download it. There will be a QR code at the last slide so you can get a direct link to it. We included documentation, we included onboarding scripts, everything actually works automatically. You have to directly set it up, your own app builder project, and then you can immediately start with it. This connector was awarded with the App Assurance Badge as well, meaning that we had scalability and performance during implementation in mind. It was created with excellence. So as data integration processes are sometimes difficult to explain, I actually made a little demonstration video for you so you can see how it works. Here we are in a typical commerce store where we do a little order and directly jump into App Builder, and we see here the events, the commerce order sync. And there we see that it's attached to a runtime, and this runtime is consuming the event because we got the order data, and you see it here in a journal, and here's the JSON data which you get from Commerce. So it's highly flexible. Whatever data we want there we can consume. We process it and export it to SAP, and we get directly an ID back. Once we switch to SAP, we can make sure that it is here. Don't worry, this is German. Yeah, so this is how it works, and it's actually quite fast. A little conclusion at the end. So, like you saw in the last couple days here from the Adobe presentation slides, there's a really modern approach. Adobe gave us really powerful tools, the App Builder Integration Starter Kit, so we can extend commerce from the outside via API-first approach. This is really very, very easy. We are running on a serverless infrastructure, so that means we can just focus on development, right? We don't have to care about anything else. We write our 50 lines of code and deploy it in the cloud. It's running immediately and it works fine. And then I brought a little success story here with you with one of our latest customers, Deutsche Engine Company. So they are building engines for not only farming industry, but also construction sector, industry and so on. And they came to us and said, hey, we need a B2B platform for spare parts. we have worldwide customer base, we need to connect it to our SAP. And they are currently in the migration phase from R3 to SAP for HANA, and meaning that we have to implement this connector actually for both systems, right? And they had the requirement that they need custom individual prices, we needed sales orders, they needed customer documents exchanged to Adobe Commerce and so on. And then we approached them and said, hey, look, Adobe has this really nice approach to a modern implementation. Would you be open to actually that we begin this project with it? And they totally agreed. They are happy. We are happy because it's actually ridiculously easy to implement this. So that's it actually. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I will be around here in the hall after the talk as well. Just approach me. QR code to download the connector if you want, try it out. And independently from this connector, you should actually try out App Builder, Commerce Integration Starter Kit. It really works perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was really impressive. 3 days of implementation, that is really good. What makes me curious is if someone has to adopt this, like you said, it's 50 lines of code. If they want to make any changes, like what are some of the things someone has to be cautious about when they adopt it? And
yes.
Tell us a little bit more about you said it's very fast, but
yes.
the performance and testing that you did, and what are the numbers, like how fast?
Yes, so this connector, when you install it, it actually already syncs orders, products, customers in bidirectional, both systems, right? You can also request order history data and so on. And we tried out delta imports, full imports, and of course full imports take longer, but what I mean with almost real time, you can request data via webhooks. So for example, if you need customer individual prices in the front end, they get from outside of SAP directly to the front end. Once you installed this connector, the only thing left you have to do in your own individual project is actually that you have to map the data, because every Adobe Commerce is individually, every SAP is individually. So this is common data, like common SKU, common attributes like image, description, and so on. But of course, your own next project has individual data. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you as well.
Thank you. These are 2 excellent presentations.